known by its map designation as Area 51.
We're now learning Area 51,
known as Area 51.
Thank you for
Near
clearing that
Area
up.
51.
Thank you.
Known as Area 51.
Because Area 51 is very important.
They called him Jimmy, and everybody wanted to be his friend.
What's good? What's good? Welcome here, Area 51 here, your favorite channel if you like boxing. This is a channel where we try to be really unbiased when it comes down to the boxing scheme. I normally do stuff in Spanish and try to bring that knowledge into the Spanish speaking world, but I'm also doing videos in English. And I think it is important, for people to understand that, we follow sport and we should get rid of all the nationalist garbage and, pro Mexico or, pro black or whatever, or the racism. We should get rid of all that and just speak sports. I think that would make a lot of sense. And, just actually give credit to the fighters who are actually, taking risk, whether they lose or win, not abandon them just because they lose one fight, which is what we see today. This is the era of boxing where you lose one fight and it's pretty much game over. So I support fighters. I don't care who they are. As long as they're taking the risk, they get a lot of respect. And I don't need people who are acting like all humble and all this shit. I'd rather have an Adrian Broner who's facing everybody, or a Jojo Diaz who's facing everybody, and than a Gennady Golovkin or a Canelo, or other fighters, or Jermall Charlo, who are ducking everybody. I'd rather have those people, those sort of fighters, because win or lose, they show that they want to fight, and that's what boxing is. It's a fighting sport. It's a gentleman's sport. Okay. So, subscribe here to our channel if you like it. We like undisputed champions here. If you're not undisputed and you are an elite fighter, there is an issue. You probably don't want to fight unless they're ducking you, but you probably might not want to get that undisputed championship. So we always want undisputed champions. That's how you know you're the best. And that's how we value real fighters for their championships. So anyway, subscribe, go to goldeneraboxing.com, and also give us a like as well. That's our webpage. You will learn a lot about historical boxing. We talk history here as well. And I normally don't do stuff in English, but like I said, I'm going to start making more videos. I think it's a good idea. So we know that soon enough, a few weeks from now, David Benavidez and Caleb Plant are going to face each other. And, I'm actually very happy that this fight has been made, because one thing I can tell you with certainty, okay, with 100% certainty, because I know David Benavidez camp, I interviewed him before, is that once David Benavidez became a champion and Caleb Plant became a champion, Caleb Plant just did not want to fight David. When Caleb Plant beat Uzcategui, David Benavidez was dying for a unification fight. And David Benavidez, has always requested a fight with Caleb Plant, but it just seemed from Caleb's Plant perspective that he just seemed like he wasn't ready, or he wasn't interested in the fight, which in my opinion, that means that he was, probably, scared that he was going to fight him. So just like Gervonta, I feel, took the fight with Ryan Garcia with with a gun pointed at his head, because it would look really bad if you now also, avoid Ryan Garcia after avoiding Devin Haney and probably not going to fight Shakur Stevenson. I feel that Caleb Plant had no other option than to take this fight, because if he doesn't take David Benavidez, Canelo Alvarez, I'm sure Canelo Alvarez would love a rematch with him to avoid David Benavidez. But if he didn't take that fight, what are other fights that might be good for Plant? And one of them is, Demetrius Andrade, which that will be a dangerous fight for Caleb Plant. And a lot of people talk bad about Demetrius Saunders, but I want to be honest. I want to be unbiased. There's a lot of fighters that have avoided this man. You can say he had a terrible career in XYZ, but listen, at the end of the day, if a fighter wants to fight, they will make it happen. And this guy, they played with his contract. His numbers went down with Joseph Parker when he was when he was Zach Parker. They changed his contract. I mean, this guy has had all sorts of bad issues because in the end of the day, a lot of fighters don't want to take the fight. And it's the same thing with Terrence Crawford in 147. A lot of fighters, especially PBC fighters, now we know Jaron doesn't want to fight him either. So there's nothing new under my radar, but apparently a lot of the things that I said years ago are coming to fruition. So, nothing new for me. But that will be a dangerous fight. And in fact, I would actually favor Andrade to beat Caleb Plant. I know they sparred before, and I heard the rumors of the sparring. It's just a spar, of course, but, Andrade is a good fighter. But if he doesn't fight Demetrius Saunders, then you have Dave Morrell Jr., and I don't believe Caleb Plant beats Dave Morrell Jr. anytime soon. That would be a dangerous fight for Caleb Plant. So he took David Benavidez because out of the two other fights that I mentioned, that's probably the one that's going to make him more money. And other than that, he doesn't really stand a chance going to 168 to fight the Dimitri Bivol or the Arthur Beterbiev. I think that's a little bit too much for him. Now, if you want to talk about a proven fighter, there's a difference between Caleb Plant and there's a difference between David Benavidez. I believe both of them are not proven fighters. Okay, that's for sure. They haven't really fought anybody or beat. Let's say they have fought, but they haven't beat anybody that has good pedigree. And in the case of Caleb Plant, he didn't beat Canelo Alvarez. However, he made his name out of Canelo Alvarez because, just like Pitbull Cruz made his name out of Gervonta Davis. When you fight certain individuals, you have a big name. I don't think it's fair because there's other fighters who, are not fighting these elite super fighters or, commercial fighters, I would put them, and they don't get the recognition. But, when you fight these guys, not only you get paid well, but people know who you are. It's just sad condition of boxing. I think it's sad that happens, to be honest, because there's other fighters who are risking and they don't get any credit. Win, draw, or lose, they don't get any credit whatsoever. I can name a few. So I think that Caleb Plant, he said at first that he wanted to fight David Benavidez for December, but something had happened in this part of the deal where they weren't really sure and they were looking for a different fight. But eventually, the fight was made. Now, of course, if you look at the resume of David Benavidez, I mean, let's gotta be honest here, he hasn't really fought anybody who, in my opinion, is also an elite level fighter. I do believe he fought good fighters, but nothing elite. I can't put David Lemieux there as elite. Ronald Gabriel was not bad, in my opinion. I think he would be a tough cookie, especially, during his time when David Benavidez was coming up. And then on top of that, the difference is that David Benavidez has been avoided. And I don't care how you frame this. I don't care how you say this. He has been avoided by Canelo Alvarez. Canelo Alvarez wants no part of David Benavidez, like he didn't want any part of Demetrius Saunders. He could have become undisputed in 160 and done history with Mexico for $40 million, but he didn't want to take that route. And I think that is a testimony to, of who he is as a fighter. And David Benavidez, yeah, sure, he hasn't fought anybody, but who did Callum Smith fight? I mean, who did Billy Joe Saunders fight? Who did Caleb Plant fight? Nobody. And David Benavidez, of his weight issues and whatever, that's fine, but he's worth more than Yildirim, and he's won the same belt 2 times. He lost the belt 2 times because of what he was doing, the weight and the cocaine. But the cocaine is not is not a drug enhancer like clenbuterol. Clenbuterol is something that you actually can mask the other substances as well. So I think that's worse, to be honest with you. Cocaine is not going to make you fight better. It's probably give you a heart attack in the ring. You don't do better with cocaine. You have a heart attack, whether you're going and doing sports or fucking or whatever. You can have a heart attack. I know many people who suffered. I used to hang out with people that used to do that shit, and it's not good. Either way. So the difference between Caleb Plant and the difference between David Benavidez is that Caleb Plant didn't want to take unifications because he could have also unified with Callum Smith and also Billy Joe Saunders, but he didn't want that. On the other side, nobody wanted to fight David Benavidez when he was the champion. So there's a difference between the two of them. So if David Benavidez hasn't fought anybody, it's because he's been avoided. If Caleb Plant hasn't fought anybody, it's because he's been avoiding other fighters and he just wanted the Canelo ticket meal. Now, these two guys, they don't get along since City Boxing. That's in Las Vegas. I've been to that gym a few times. I know, like I said, I know some of these fighters. I've had dinner actually with Caleb Plant before in a sushi restaurant. You can check my Facebook. And I think he's a good guy. I like Caleb Plant. But I have serious doubts that he's going to beat David Benavidez, okay? And I just want to be honest. David Benavidez, does get hit a lot. I do believe that David Benavidez doesn't have necessarily the best defense. Ronald Gabriel put him down, but he's improved a lot since Ronald Gabriel. He's not the same fighter when he fought Ronald Gabriel. Now, we're talking about, 4 or 5 years ago, okay? So you can't really be looking at that and say, well, he's the same fighter. He's not the same fighter. Caleb Plant, I think he was doing well with Canelo Alvarez, but at some point, I felt like he gave up. I think he could have done more in the fight. And I think he should have been a little bit more disciplined with his jab, and he should have moved more. And I think he could have probably passed it through. He could have sneaked it away. I think he was doing a good job. But he got carried away, and Canelo Alvarez does throw hard uppercuts. Now, with David Benavidez, is going to be much more difficult to try to outbox him. And a lot of people say, a lot of Caleb Plant fans, they say, well, Caleb Plant is just going to outbox him. He just needs to outbox him and throw the jab and move. And, and it sounds good when you say that. The problem, though, is that, see, in the case of a fighter like Devin Haney versus Jojo Diaz, right? It's a typical example. Haney has a longer reach, so he just needs to throw the jab and just, take a cup of tea and just keep moving up as he's fighting and take him out of range and beat him up little by little with a jab. That's why Jojo was having a hard time, even though sometimes he did get in, showing a little bit of his talent. He pretty much, was diffused anytime he came in because Devin Haney is a, ranger. He has more range. He also has a better length in his arms. It's the same thing also when you analyzing the fight with Ryan Garcia. Gervonta Davis' arms are too small, and he will probably push the action. He has to push the action, but Ryan Garcia has that length, right? That's not going to work with Caleb Plant because David Benavidez has monkey arms. Okay? And when I mean by monkey arms, that motherfucker, and I like David Benavidez, so if you're listening, David, it's all with love, brother. You have big arms. And anytime Caleb Plant tries to throw the jab and step backwards to get out of range, because that's what you have to do if you want to box him, David Benavidez is going to catch him because his arms are so fucking long then that he just has to move his arm a little bit, and he's fast. So not only does he move as length, but he's also fast. So that's going to make not Ryan Garcia, but Caleb Plant stuck in many of the swaths of the fight. I don't think that he will be able to respond well when that happens, because this is not a regular fighter. David Benavidez is not your regular, slow poke Callum Smith type of fighter. He's not like that. He actually presses the action. He's fast. He has length. And he has power, which makes a lot of difference, especially, you know, especially in a fight of this caliber. Now, here's another problem. Canelo Alvarez, he moved up, a few weight classes, and he was able to hurt Caleb Plant. Okay, Canelo Alvarez came from 154, 160. I know there's speculations that doesn't match power. Like, for example, how can a guy move up when he wasn't knocking out people at 154 just suddenly be knocking everybody out like flies at 168? I actually find that a little bit suspicious, to be honest with you. And he is proven to have done some things. But David Benavidez is, he's a 168 pounder. And not only that, but this dude was sparring heavyweights back in the day in Phoenix, Arizona. And he sparred big dudes. So I'm not sure that he's going to be very intimidated by Caleb Plant's power. And I think Caleb Plant is going to suffer more from the power of David Benavidez than from the power of Canelo Alvarez, because David is a strong fighter. I think David Benavidez eventually could do possibly cruiserweight. Maybe he could do heavyweight. I don't know. He's a tall guy. Okay. So I think that in this fight, Caleb Plant, it would have to be a very boring fight. And I call it boring, but it's really not. It's strategical, but he would have to get in, throw the jab, and do pretty much an offensive clinch the whole time. Throw the jab, clinch. Throw the jab, clinch. It would have to be a very, very boring fight. And I am not sure that he is going to do that. Now, you can win doing that. You definitely can win doing that. But if he doesn't do that, it's not going to work out, because even if he hits the jab and he steps out and eventually he's going to go into the, he's basically going to go, and he's going to be in the corner, and he's going to be receiving a lot of punches. And once he's in the corner, he's going to have to do something, because if Canelo was able to reach him with shorter arms, you can just imagine what David Benavidez is going to do. Now, of course, Caleb Plant, in my opinion, has a good style. I think he has a good style, but the flurry and combinations of David Benavidez, I just think it's going to be a little bit too much for him. And once he starts hitting the body, which I think that's what David Benavidez is going to focus as well. Caleb Plant does defend his face well, but once he starts hitting the body, I think little by little Caleb Plant is going to suffocate. And then is when David Benavidez is probably going to get the killer blow and knock him out. I think this will end up in a KO or TKO. I think David Benavidez is going to be a little bit too much for this guy. Now, of course, this is not the fight that I wanted to see. I did not want to see Caleb Plant versus Canelo Alvarez. If you're a casual fan, maybe not Canelo, but David Benavidez. If you're a casual fan, that's the fight you wanted to see. The fight that I want to see, and the fight that is dangerous for David Benavidez, would be against Dave Morrell Jr. That is the best fight in that division. Caleb Plant's fight with David Benavidez is okay, in my opinion. But the best fight is against Dave Morrell Jr. And it will be an interesting fight with Andre if it does get made. But Dave Morrell Jr. Is a dangerous guy. And that will present a different sort of difficulties again for David. But other than that, I think David has this fight. And to be honest with you, I think David knocks out Canelo Alvarez as well. I don't think Canelo Alvarez is ready for a fighter like David Benavidez. I said this a long time ago. I don't think that he is ready for a fighter like that, and he's probably gonna, leave his title vacant. And now we all know why he didn't want to fight him. So it is what it is. That's how boxing is today, and people give him a pass and accuse David, but he always wanted to fight. Now, of course, if David beats Caleb Plant, Canelo's gonna have to fight him. So if he leaves his Bacon belt, then Canelo's in a position right now where he's going to have to face the win of the WBA, I think, which is the interim WBA champion is Damaro Jr., but he's not touching Damaro Jr. Damaro Jr. Canelo Alvarez is bad news for Canelo Alvarez. This is not going to work out too well for him, especially because he's a fighter that not a lot of people know, but he will be a star. If he fights Canelo Alvarez, we go beat him. So that will be great to see, in my opinion, that unification fight between if Canelo vacates both belts, and I think he will. I think Damaro Jr., David Benavidez is the fight in 168. That's the best fight in my opinion. So we'll see what happens, and I hope you enjoy the analysis that I gave. Like I said, I could be wrong. Maybe Caleb Plant goes there and, beats the brakes out of David Benavidez, but I just think the power, the experience, especially with bigger fighters, I just don't see Caleb Plant doing too much in this fight. And I think it might start good. It might start moving and throwing the jab and all this like he did with Canelo. But once he gets caught a couple times, I think he will fade away. And then I think that's when this guy will crunch him out. So that's my opinion. Anyway, give us a like here, show us love here in Golden Era. We do it for you. And also visit our website, goldeneraboxing.com, where you'll learn more about news and other things that we have, all for the people who like great boxing. And we have a lot of historical boxing there, so you'll learn a lot from fighters that are from the 50s and below. We have everything there, so subscribe. Give us a like also, a thumbs up. Talk to you soon, and Hagone, like the natives say in New Mexico. Peace out.